Brock Lesnar has been openly and loudly trashing Hulk Hogan for years.
What you gonna do, Hulkster? Party's over, Grandpa.
According to reports, Lesnar has revealed new evidence that exposes Hulk Hogan for what he really was, a monster. The absurd thing is that Hulk's ex-wife also gave us advance notice.
He's a complete liar. He is a...
This new information, which may entirely change your opinion of Hulk Hogan, is even stranger. The real feud between Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan. When most wrestling fans hear about epic feuds, they immediately think of The Rock and Stone Cold. Maybe Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. But for over 20 years, one conflict has been simmering. To be honest, I think that might be the most interesting one. It involves two of the biggest names in wrestling, Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan. What started off as a fictional scenario evolved into something quite real. And after taking into account all the information at my disposal, I think Lesnar was right. About Hogan from the beginning. The summer of 2002 was when it all started. WWE was pushing Brock Lesnar hard. They called him the next big thing. The man was young, strong, menacing, and ready to take over. We hoped that he would defeat The Rock and win the title. But first, he had to prove himself against famous people. Hulk Hogan came into play at this point. Hogan has just returned to WWE after a lengthy break. He was the perfect target because he was a tremendous legend that Lesnar could destroy. Paul Heyman was Lesnar's manager at the time. He's always been good at making up stories. Week after week, Lesnar would make fun of Hogan. The moment he commandeered Hogan's limousine stands out the most. The disdain was obviously more than lip service. Hogan had had enough. He challenged Lesnar to a match. The SmackDown was formally announced by Stephanie McMahon for August 8, 2002. This is what Wrestling 101 was supposed to be. Since the old legend helps newer by losing to him, Hogan had already decided to put Lesnar over. But then everything fell into disarray. As soon as the bell rang, Lesnar took command. During their first lockup, he flung Hogan over the ring, sending the Hulkster's signature bandana flying. Despite being outmatched in strength and suffering from injuries, Hogan managed to make a few hard shots during the game. Still, Lesnar controlled most of the action. The match was a demonstration of Lesnar's supremacy. This fight pitted a 25-year-old NCAA wrestling champion against a 49-year-old legend. Not at all. Lesnar's true athletic skills completely subdued Hogan. His history as an amateur wrestler was apparent. Hogan moved like a true athlete, but he looked like an old-timey star trying to stay relevant. It was a tough conclusion. Paul Heyman interrupted Hogan's trademark leg drop, and Lesnar got into a vicious bear hug that targeted Hogan's already vulnerable ribs. Lesnar won by knockout after the referee eventually stopped the fight after Hogan fainted. But Lesnar was not finished. He grabbed a steel chair and punched Hogan in the skull, splattering the legend's blood across his chest. This nasty statement surprised and infuriated fans. It was more than just a match. On Lesnar's terms, it was a violent symbolic passing of the torch. In terms of business, the match was a success. Lesnar became the youngest WWE champion in history after defeating The Rock. Lesnar and Hogan had never met before. And this encounter left a mark. The fallout from that interaction in 2002 would spark a more dramatic clash 12 years later. By 2014, both men's careers had undergone significant shifts. Lesnar dominated the UFC and became the heavyweight champion in the world's leading mixed martial arts organization before making a comeback to WWE as a part-time performer with unprecedented strength. Hogan, on the other hand, had seen some unexpected shifts in his career trajectory, such as personal issues and his ultimate departure from WWE. The two men's biggest real-life feud started during a Monday night Raw show that was supposed to be a celebration on August 14, 2014. WWE organized a segment to honor Hogan's 61st birthday, bringing together wrestling professionals and fans to honor one of the industry's most well-known figures. Hogan was accompanied by his family, including his wife and children, while the wrestling community celebrated his accomplishments in the sport, fostering a festive atmosphere. Brock Lesnar's arrival significantly altered the mood of the evening.
What you gonna do, Hulkster? Party's over, Grandpa.
Lesnar and Paul Heyman interrupted the birthday festivities to make fun of Hulk. After stopping the legendary run at WrestleMania 30, Lesnar's surprising victory against The Undertaker has elevated him to the position of WWE's most dominant and unpredictable talent. As he got ready for another championship matchup with John Cena at SummerSlam, his confidence was at an all-time high. The Manor Grandpa was being called Bothered Hulk. Hogan and a number of other people assert that Lesnar deviated from the script and insulted him personally, which was inappropriate in a work environment, transforming an effort at character into twalk. The Manor Grandpa into genuine contempt. This event had a unique significance because of the crowd and the setting. This was not your typical backstage scene or wrestling promo. In front of Hogan's family, which included his wife and children, one of the biggest stars in wrestling openly disparaged their patriarch on his birthday. The personal nature of the attack and the familial setting made what should have been a celebration into an uneasy confrontation. Interview: 05:16/534. It was at this point that wrestling fans and commentators became aware of the tension. The fact that Cena, who was scheduled to face Lesnar at the upcoming pay-per-view, felt compelled to intervene was evidence of how bad the issue.
Cena! John Cena! We're about to see SummerSlam early! This is great!
Hogan's single quotes as reaction to the incident revealed how deeply the grandfather's comment affected him. In subsequent interviews, he conveyed his genuine disapproval of Lesnar's behavior.
John Cena came down. Brock Lesnar disrespectful as it gets. He came down here and intimidated every one of them, and he did it.
He continued by saying,
shout out to Brock Lesnar. You know, every dog has his day. I'm not as good as I ever was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, or however those words go. So Brock Lesnar, you need to bite your tongue when you start throwing my name around. Shout out to Brock Lesnar. You know, every dog has his day. I'm not as good as I ever was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, or however those words go. So Brock Lesnar, you need to bite your tongue when you start throwing my.
The scenario was made more complicated by the broader context of both men's current jobs. When Lesnar returned to WWE in 2012, he had unprecedented creative and financial power, enabling him to operate more as a unique attraction than a typical performer. Few wrestlers were able to push boundaries that others couldn't because of the credibility and influence that his UFC victory had bestowed upon him. At the time, Hogan was at a different phase of his career. He was still one of the most recognizable characters in wrestling, even though he was no longer the undisputed superstar he had been during the height of Hulkamania in the 1980s and 1990s. As the wrestling industry evolved, younger wrestlers like Lesnar belonged to a new generation that was not always bound by the same respect standards that had regulated previous eras. The incident also highlighted the changing power dynamics inside WWE in the past. Veterans like Hogan would have had the political power to address such disrespect through backstage channels or on-screen retaliation. However, because of Lesnar's unique position inside the promotion, his solid fighting record, and his popularity at the box office, normal wrestling politics didn't always apply. This power imbalance became even more apparent when looking at Hogan's subsequent attempts to address the problem. His annoyance at not being allowed to respond in kind was evident in his public statements and social media tweets. The traditional wrestling tactic of building toward a fight to settle disputes proved impractical due to their different career trajectories and WWE's booking goals. This episode would mark the beginning of a more complex pattern involving both males. In the years that followed, Hogan would intensify their already existing tension by openly discussing wrestling Lesnar in a variety of ways. But Lesnar would remain silent as usual, letting his actions speak more than his words. Regarding Hulk Hogan's wicked side, the Hogans are lying. Now, in order to fully comprehend Brock's concerns about Hogan, we need to look at his inner life. We learn about a history of dishonesty, controversies, and controversial acts that could contribute to the explanation of why Lesnar handled him this way. One of the best examples is Hogan's frequent fabrications about wrestling with Lesnar. In interviews with TMZ Sports in 2025 and Joe Rogan's podcast in 2023, Hogan claimed that he tried to help him relax in the ring, that he wrestled Lesnar right away after leaving the UFC, and that WWE gave him Lesnar first.
Well, I got him first when he came back from the UFC, okay? And I was kind of like winding down, putting guys over and doing my thing. And Vince goes, I want you to work with Brock. I went, okay, well, when he came back from UFC, they gave him to me first, and he was really intense, bro.
This is the problem. This is completely false. Hogan and Lesnar only fought once in 2002, before Lesnar even went to the UFC. When Lesnar returned to the WWE in 2012 after his stint in the UFC. His first opponent was John Cena, not Hogan. Hogan's final bout took place in January 2012, and he wasn't even there when Lesnar came back. This is not a small mistake. It's a deliberate lie designed to give Hogan a major part in Lesnar's story. He has been under fire from wrestling fans for this, comparing it to his other made-up stories. Like 400 days of wrestling a year. For a long time, Hogan has been lying about his career, claimed to be an admirer of Elvis Presley, although the singer died not long after Hogan made his stage debut. He said that Metallica wanted him as their bassist, but Lars Ulrich denied this. Despite his assertions to the contrary, director Darren Aronofsky denied ever receiving an offer for the lead role in The Wrestler. Lesnar, who values honesty and measurable achievement. A deeper look at Hulk Hogan outside of his work life, however, would reveal an even darker side to him. First, let's talk about the 2006 sex tape he and Heather recorded. Hogan immediately recognized an opportunity and sued Gawker, the company that released the tape, which contributed to the company's closure and bankruptcy. Bubba initially knew about Hulk's romance with his wife and even condoned it. Hulk was still caught off guard, though, when he took charge of the situation with a lawsuit and
really, at the end of the day, had an employee of mine not steal my surveillance. Only 3 people to this day would still know about that event. And my life wouldn't have been ruined. My ex-wife wouldn't be considered a whore. And Hogan wouldn't have $141 million in his pocket. So, I mean, joke's on me, mother.
Joke's on me, Mom. The racial words Hulk used in the audio of the cassettes was what ultimately killed the sex scandal. For him, despite the fact that he made money off of it. When talking about his daughter Brooke's relationship with a black man, Hogan would often use the N-word. When this was published in 2015, he said, "I guess we're all a little racist." Immediately fired him and expelled him from their Hall of Fame. The racist comments damaged Hogan's reputation. He has been a family-friendly figure for decades, urging youngsters to practice, pray, and take their vitamins. When it was shown that he secretly had racist views, that reputation was completely ruined. Hogan apologized and attributed the problem to his background and challenging times. "It was the lowest period of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I'm furious at my daughter. I was unhappy over something that transpired between her and her partner, and I had no idea that I was being filmed." He even acknowledged having suicide thoughts.
I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom by myself when My ex-wife was gone and the kids were gone, and I was completely broken and destroyed. And I said, what's the easiest way out of this? I mean, I was lost.
You were suicidal.
Yes, I was.
However, saw this as damage control. Rather than genuine remorse, his casual use of racial epithets suggested that these were part of his regular speech rather than isolated incidents. Even after being added back into the Hall of Fame by WWE in 2018, fans weren't receptive to celebrities. He was made fun of by crowds at wrestling events, including one in January 2025 on Netflix. The racist remarks had permanently changed people's opinion of him. Hogan's family concerns about behavior were also revealed. His 26-year marriage to Linda terminated in a nasty divorce in 2009. He was a sex addict and a liar. According to Linda.
I have to be honest about what I went through in my marriage with Terry as Hulk Hogan and what it entailed and what it has caused over the years and everything else. He's a complete liar. He is a sex addict.
Then she revealed that Hulk had an affair with Christiane Plant, who was friends with their daughter Brooke. The event happened in 2007 while they were filming their reality show, Hogan Knows Best. This treachery led to years of family problems. Brooke was so embarrassed that she severed her relationship with both of her parents. The reality show demonstrated Hogan's controlling personality. He put GPS trackers on Brooke's car and threatened to take legal action against the people who were filming her music videos. Linda claims that their marital problems were made worse by the cameras. In 2007, Hogan's son Nick crashed his father's Toyota Supra while racing. His passenger, John Graziano, suffered severe brain damage and needs long-term care. Nick was incarcerated for 8 months. The catastrophe raised concerns about the careless culture of the Hogan family. Hogan's conceit led to a public argument with WCW booker Vince Russo. In a shoot promo he gave at an event in 2000, Russo chastised.
Hey, let me tell you who doesn't give a shit about this company. That goddamn politician Hulk Hogan. Because let me tell you people what happened out here in this ring tonight. All day long I'm playing politics with Hulk Hogan.
Fired on, apparently agitated. And you huge bald son of a Hogan, kiss my ass. As a result, Hogan made the decision to leave and sue WCW for breach of contract. The lawsuit made WCW's financial problems worse, which finally resulted in its sale to WWE. Russo's outburst, though, just served to emphasize how wrestling fans were annoyed by Hogan's backstage shenanigans. Furthermore, there were serious charges against Hogan. In 1996, a lady accused him of sexual assault during a WCW event. Despite Hogan's denial and alibi, the claim added to his already lengthy string of problems. In addition, Hogan made false claims about utilizing steroids. In the early 1990s, Hogan was charged with utilizing steroids to gain muscle mass. He initially denied frequent use of steroids on the Arsenio Hall show in 1993, claiming that he only used them briefly to recover from an injury. But in 1994, when WWE promoter Vince McMahon was being prosecuted on a federal level for trafficking steroids, Hogan testified under immunity. He admitted to using steroids to maintain his physical fitness for 14 years, and when it was allowed, he shared them with McMahon. Later, he made an effort to defend himself.
The time when I got into business, the guys were huge, larger than life, and the steroids were illegal at the time. But around 1988 or 1990, people got re-educated.
Hogan has recently generated controversy while advertising his real American beer in 2024. Hogan made jokes about body slamming Vice President Clow Harris and casting doubt on her Indian ancestry are examples of racist remarks directed against her legacy with outdated assumptions.
Somebody? You want me to body slam Kamala Harris? I said, do you want me to body slam Kamala Harris? You want me to drop the leg on Kamala? Is Kamala a chameleon? Is she Indian? Okay, I like it.
Hogan would later blame his racist remarks on alcohol, but the damage was already done. His comments proved that these perspectives were not outdated. They continued to be a part of him. When you sum up all the scandals, it becomes hard to ignore the truth. Hogan put on a front by presenting himself as an all-American patriotic hero. He came across as conceited, prejudiced, crafty, and dishonest behind the scenes. He continuously deceived his followers, betrayed his family, and put his ego before his morality both inside and outside of the wrestling ring. With what we now know, it's clear that Lesnar saw through the sham. He was aware that the man wearing the red and yellow wasn't worthy of the respect he was requesting. Maybe Lesnar was right all along. The end of an era and its consequences for Hogan's death wrestling. Hulk Hogan died in Clearwater, Florida, on July 24, 2025. At the age of 71, he had a heart attack at home and was pronounced dead at the hospital. At 11:17 a.m., police found no signs of foul play, and his family described him as a legend who had influenced millions of fans over more than 40 years. Discussions about Hogan's legacy were still continuing strong at the time of his death. He made his final appearance in a WWE video for the company's Netflix debut on January 6, 2025. The audience's reaction was evident: cheers and alcohol. Even after he died, his lifestyle haunted him further. But perhaps the most telling feature of Hogan's passing was who didn't say anything. Brock Lesnar hasn't made any public remarks yet. Lesnar's silence stands out amid a sea of accolades from legends like Ric Flair, The Rock, and The Undertaker. This is not a novel situation. When Hogan concocted the tale that Brock was set to face Lesnar after UFC, Brock said nothing. He didn't argue or call attention to the lie. He just remained silent. Perhaps we could call it privacy. Some people think that was a deliberate choice. A final assessment of Lesnar's genuine emotions toward Hogan, considering their cold relationship and his well-known dislike. Many believe Lesnar's silence speaks louder than words. Since Lesnar has not issued a statement, wrestling fans are left to wonder if restraint was the ultimate decision. Was it contempt? Most people go toward the latter because of their history. To understand Hogan's place in wrestling history, you have to look at the big picture. His accomplishments in the ring have earned him notoriety. When Hulkamania was established at Madison Square Garden on January 23, 1984, after their triumph over the Iron Sheik, everything changed. Hogan's flamboyant persona, red and yellow attire, and catchphrases like, "What are you going to do when Hulkamania goes crazy on you?" helped him become a pop culture phenomenon. He was the main attraction at 8 of the first 9 WrestleManias. His most well-known moment was when Andre the Giant slammed his body, created wrestling history in WrestleMania 3, which drew 93,000 spectators. 33 million people saw his 1988 main event match against Andre, which still stands as the most-watched wrestling show ever. Prior to joining WCW in 1994, Hogan had won 6 world championships. But what really changed the industry again was his heel turn in 1996 and the creation of the New World Order, or NWO. The plot helped WCW dominate WWE in ratings for 83 weeks in a row. Hogan's impact is undeniable, but according to his daughter Brooke, life wasn't always easy for the Hulk. That's the most misunderstood or misrepresented part of fame, in my opinion. As you may imagine, they were both extremely poor, but my dad was especially so. My mother, after taking a break, Hogan returned to the WWE in 2002 and faced The Rock at WrestleMania X8. The audience's reaction showed how popular he remains. He won his 6th WWE Championship that year. His most recent appearance was in January 2025, and he was given contradictory answers, indicating the change in his reputation. Hulk Hogan became well known in popular culture following Beyond the Ring. Beyond the Ring starred in films including Rocky III and No Holds Barred, had a reality TV show, and starred in his own cartoon. Few wrestlers have achieved such success breaking into the mainstream entertainment industry. He not only represented wrestling but also brought it to the living rooms of the United States and other countries. Hogan achieved legendary success in the ring. He took home the WCW and WWE titles 6 times apiece. He was the first wrestler to win consecutive Royal Rumble belts in 1990 and 1991. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. WrestleMania's marketability and ostentatious image helped it become a cultural event. The NWO plotline in the late 1990s transformed wrestling narrative by introducing morally nuanced characters and blurring the lines between hero and villain. Without Hogan, it's probable that wrestling would never have gained popularity. However, the same iconic figure who contributed to the rise of wrestling also brought with him scandals that damaged his reputation. Racist remarks, personal controversies, selfish decisions, and strained relationships exposed a private individual who was very different from the adored red and yellow superhero. While Ric Flair, The Rock, and The Undertaker celebrated his influence, others tactfully shunned him. As the wrestling community deals with Hulk's death, his impact cannot be denied. However, that impact is multifaceted, encompassing heroic, shameful, iconic, and controversial elements. Without Hulk Hogan, wrestling will never be the same, for better or worse. If you enjoyed this video, you can view more content by clicking on any of the cards on your screen.